Thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. This afternoon, the Education Minister, Haruna Iddrisu, has hinted at plans to restructure the classification of senior high schools across the country to tackle persistent challenges with the computerized school selection and placement system. The initiative, he said, will see 10 Category A schools downgraded to Category B status and another 10 Category B schools upgraded to Category A, backed by extensive infrastructure investment to ensure fairness and balance in school placement. He has been speaking at a news conference here in Accra.
The Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service is working diligently in a manner which is open, transparent, and accountable. But we do accept that there is a challenge. When you have vacancies of 76,000 and you have applicants desiring to fill 76,000 with 393,000, you definitely will have a difficulty and struggle as I'm struggling. It could be any of you sitting here as Minister for Education. How can you fill 76,000 vacancies with 393 qualified applicants? That's a near impossibility. So we are doing our best. Category A, Category B, Category C, justifiably, every parent wants a child to be in a Category A school, but we haven't. In the last month, we haven't expanded infrastructure at any Category A school to have done the magic for us. My thinking, in order that we respect equity, will be that into 2026, and I've had consultations and discussions with the President, I have his support and blessing, is to convert at least 10 category schools to Category B schools, then convert 10 Category B schools to Category A schools, and that will be backing it with infrastructure, with available classroom blocks, dormitories for students, and quality improvement by way of improved teaching, and then learning materials and learning aids.
Well, Haruna Iddrisu further announced that Cabinet has given the approval to absorb and back all outstanding salaries for 6,200 unpaid teachers.
A few weeks ago, myself and Chief Director received a petition from some teachers who are unhappy with the government over their unending. They've worked for a number of months without pay. I'm happy to announce that Cabinet has given approval for the 6,200 teachers to be absolved. We'll begin the process in due course. They will have their IDs, but as I assured them, they will get back pay. But you see, having demonstrated and pelted stones, I said they have to pay for the stones because we will give them back pay. But for their conduct, what do we get in return? How that they didn't disrupt any academic work. So those 6,200 teachers, I think I can speak for both ministries in this matter. Cabinet gave the Minister of Finance approval to via budget and spend upon about 1.1 billion Ghana cedis to absorb a category of health workers and teachers.
Well, I have questions, and I'm sure you do as well. And one of the key questions in my mind right now is whether the school categorization is even necessary at this point in time. I'm wondering what criteria determine the current ranking anyway, and what really should be the basis for categorization. And should it be revised? What exactly are we looking forward to? Those are questions that we are reaching out to the ministry to give us answers on as we look at some of the key things that have come up this afternoon here on The Pulse. But joining me now is Dr. Peter Anti. He's Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies. Thank you so much for your time here on The Pulse. Well, we will be speaking to the Ministry of Education just to understand the basis for this move. Now, I'm wondering, if you're moving Category A schools and we are downgrading them to Category B schools, it must be an infrastructure problem. Why not use the finances you have to provide the schools with the infrastructure? Those are the questions on our minds, and we'll be asking the Education Ministry that question. But then let me bring in Peter just at this point, because you have monitored the education space. Do you think this is feasible in the first place?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers. Well, I think the minister seems to mean well by attempting to upgrade some Category B schools to Category A schools. In fact, that's been our position for some years now. We think that ministers of education should be measured by the number of Category A schools that they're able to create. Now, how do you create a Category A schools? There are variables that we use in doing that. So you look at your performance at WASI, you look at your teaching quality, you look at infrastructure, you look at preference in terms of student placement. I mean, the demand coming from parents for that particular school. And then we look at performance in co-curricular activities, discipline, and other factors. But these are 4 or 5 important variables that help us to determine whether a school is a Category A school or Category B school. Interestingly, all these factors are factors that are supposed to be promoted by the Ministry of Education through policy. The aspect of infrastructure, teaching quality, it depends on the quality of teachers that are being posted in the school and other variables that are coming, teaching, learning resources, and all those things. If you want to talk about infrastructure, that is the government's responsibility to provide infrastructure, and then other relevant stakeholders can also come in there. If you want to talk about provision of teaching, learning resources, and all that, these are things that is the duty of the Ministry of Education. Now, when you get all these things, that is what we call input variables. Then you can now look at your WASI performance, which is an output that is a result of the quality of infrastructure, the quality of teaching, the quality of resources, the quality of teachers, everything put together. So at the end of the day, it is a duty of the ministry to ensure that schools have these things so that they will be able to perform well. And in performing well, then the school can graduate from Category B to Category A. So personally, I don't understand the reason why the minister would want to downgrade some schools from Category A to Category B. Is it because their performance are going down? Is it because their infrastructure is not doing well? It is a duty of the ministry to do that in terms of policy. So that should be, it should never happen that a Category A school is going to be downgraded to Category B because of what? Is it that we want some constant number of schools to be classified as Category A schools, and that is why the 88 schools that we have, we are saying that if you bring 10 down, we are going to upgrade 10 more. I think this is something that the minister would have to sit down and then have a rethink around it. I would prefer that we have additional 10 coming to add on to the Category A schools, so that we create more Category A schools, because as we do that, it means that we are making more of our schools attractive, and we are also reducing the congestion that we always get during school placement, where people want to attend only few schools and the rest are left unattended to. And I think that should be the headache of the minister in trying to find ways and means to upgrade most of our Category B schools, looking at the variables, so that we'll have more of these schools for parents to select when it gets to school placement. So
but then we should have foreseen this problem, especially when we made free senior high school accessible to all. Now, one of the big questions we would like to ask the ministry when they join the conversation is what assessment they have done really to come up with this decision in the first place. But having monitored the education space really, do you think reclassification of schools is the way to go moving forward?
What I think we need to do is to, yes, reclassify, but not add on to, we have to downgrade. We shouldn't downgrade any school. We should, upgrade most of our Category B schools, which are enormous. There are a lot of them. The Category A schools are less than 90. And we have over almost 800 senior high schools in Ghana. So a lot of them are in Category B and then C. For me, what the minister would have to do would be to look at these Category B schools and then provide the needed infrastructure so that they are brought up to Category A. And that, for me, is the reclassification that you are talking about. It should never happen that a school is Category A today and it will be Category B today. It means that we are not doing things right, because, as I said, the variables that are used to classify the schools are variables that are input variables. It is only performance in WASI that is an output variable, which is the result of your input variables. So if a school was classified as category A today, and it is going to be classified as category B tomorrow, it means that the managers of that educational system are not doing what they are supposed to do. So, and that is what is bringing the school down to category B. Teaching quality is the duty of the Ministry of Education and Education Service. Infrastructure is the duty of the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service. Preferences are hinged on the nature of infrastructure, and it's also based on the quality of teaching that is happening in the school.
But then, Peter, how would this even solve one of the problems that the minister raised today, overcrowding? He made mention of the school placement system and how individuals are scrambling for category A schools. From where you sit, will that even solve the problem, knowing fully well that getting access to some of these schools is based on merit?
Yes, it's one of the ways that we'll be able to reduce the congestion in our category A schools, so that we'll have a situation whereby students can have a number of choices that they would want to select. So if you have 88, let's assume there are 88 category A schools. Everybody wants to go in there, and you are able to now increase it to 150. You are reducing the pressure on the 88. Now they have additional 70 schools that they can also select, and they feel satisfied with it. So for me, that is one of the ways that we'll be able to reduce the pressure and then ensure that students are posted to schools that their performance. Students are posted to schools that their performance enables them to be posted in.
Stay with me, Doc. Let me bring in Hashmin Mohammed. He's the Media Relations Officer for the Ministry of Education. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. A lot of questions on my mind, and I'm sure on the minds of Ghanaians as well. What problem exactly are you trying to fix with the reclassification of the schools entirely?
Attempt your first question. It is important I put this in clearer perspective. I think the minister said government needs to improve infrastructure in category A schools, upgrade some of the infrastructure in category A school, as well as upgrading some of the category B school and elevating them into category A school. This is because the number of demand for category A schools across board is very, very high. For instance, in all the category A schools, the schools declared a vacancy of 76,537. And after the exams, we had about 393,593 qualified students who qualified to be placed in the category A. So you can see the discrepancy between the vacancy and then the number of qualified students, simply because the government hasn't invested much in terms of infrastructure in the category A school. Another issue is the fact that in four regions in the country, they do not have category A school. So how do you ensure that those regions also have category A school? It is about investing and improving infrastructure in those schools. And first of all, we need to also look at how category A schools are defined. I think the earlier person I defined the category A schools. It is about the level of interest by students, the performance, and then the infrastructure in those schools. Now, knowing this criteria, I think it is very easier for government to deploy resources to improve the infrastructure in those schools, as well as migrating some of the category B schools to category A, and then some of the category C schools to category B, and then also ensuring equitable distribution of the category A schools in the schools that do not have, in the regions that do not have the category A schools.
So if you have the means to upgrade the infrastructure in some of these category B schools to category A, why are you then downgrading category A schools to category B?
Let me make it very, very clear. The minister never said they are going to downgrade some of the category A schools. He said government needs to deploy more resources to upgrade to improve infrastructure and upgrade some of the category A schools so that they will be able to absorb most students, as well as elevating some of the category B schools into category A so that we can have a lot of category A schools. Every parent wants to have his or her son in a very good school. So, and the number of students who are qualifying for category A school is very, very high, and some of them, by merely being unable to meet the criteria, deprive them from accessing the category A school. So how do you fix the situation? You can only fix it by improving infrastructure and upgrading some of the existing category A schools, as well as elevating some of the category B to A, and then some of the category C schools to category B.
So let me be clear, you're not going to downgrade any category A school?
No category A school will be downgraded. It will be upgraded by improving infrastructure across board in some of the category A schools. I think the Honorable Minister said 10 category A schools will be upgraded.
But the Minister said specifically that they were going to convert A to B. What does conversion mean here? Is that not downgrading?
No, the Minister said they are going to convert some of the category B schools to category A to increase the number of category A schools.
Okay, Hashmin, stay with me. Let's be sure what the Minister said. Watch this.
Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service is working diligently in a manner which is open, transparent, and accountable. But we do accept that there is a challenge. When you have vacancies of 76,000 and you have applicants desiring to fill 76,000 with 393,000, you definitely will have a difficulty and struggle as I'm struggling. It could be any of you sitting here as Minister for Education. How can you fill 76,000 vacancies with 393 qualified applicants? That's a near impossibility. So we are doing our best. Category A, Category B, Category C, justifiably, every parent wants a child to be in a Category A school. But we haven't. In the last month, we haven't expanded infrastructure at any Category A school to have done the magic for us. My thinking, in order that we respect equity, will be that into 2026, and I've had consultations and discussions with the President, I have his support and blessing, is to convert at least 10 category schools to Category B schools. Then convert 10 Category B schools to Category A schools. And that will be backing it with infrastructure, with available classroom blocks, dormitories for students, and quality improvement by way of improved teaching, and then learning materials and learning aids.
So Hashmin is still with us. What strikes me is that the minister tells us that he has done extensive consultation and he has the backing of the presidency to implement this in the year 2026. Do we know how much it will cost us if we're upgrading some of the schools?
Well, that is an evaluation that will take place. Even the CSSPS Secretariat themselves, I've seen they have recommended to the minister to have an evaluation of the exercise right after the placement exercise, right after assigning students to the school. They want to hold a conference where they can look at the constraints and enablers of the BECE placement exercise. And then from there, we can all collectively come to an agreement on how we can progress with the future. But in terms of the costing itself, that is something that is ongoing.
Now, let's look at the areas that some of the schools you are proposing to be upgraded are from, the northern region. Can you state these 10 different schools you're looking out to upgrade based on what the minister said?
Well, those schools will be identified based on the data. You realize that the level of interest in schools like Presec, Achimota, Wesley Girls, Ebru Girls are very, very high. So it is easier to identify them by looking at the data as the CSSPS system is placing the students, and then the interest, the choices of some of the students. Then the ministry will be able to gather that data, and then we'll look at the spaces available in those schools and assign or allocate resources for that, especially the performance level of those schools too.
And one of the key concerns the minister is raising, for which he wants to introduce is the number of individuals who are scrambling for Category A schools. How will that fix that problem?
Well, every parent would like to have his word in a very good school. Hence the reason why the interest in the Category A schools are very, very high. So if infrastructure is expanded, then we are not going to have a situation where we have a lot of qualified students for Category A who ends up not being placed or assigned to the Category A schools. If the level of infrastructure is expanded to meet the growing demand, I think it is going to fix the problem.
And let's look at the cost analysis. As we speak, you haven't even done that assessment. Is that the case?
The cost analysis is, I think the ministry has taken into consideration the cost analysis. There is a team that is looking at that, and the ministry believes that government will be able to meet the cost analysis to be able to provide those infrastructure in those categories of schools. I'm very sure when that is done, we will make it public to the media.
Let me go back to my initial question. The minister, when we listened to him, said, convert A to B. What did he mean by that?
The minister said convert B to A, not A to B. If you say convert A to B, then that means that is a downgrade. But the minister said convert B to A.
But he was clear. That's why I played it to you. And I took my time to ask you other questions before we came back to this, because I wanted you to digest what the minister said. He was clear. 10 A schools and 10 B schools.
The clarity.
So the clarity is that he didn't mean to say that. Is that the case?
The minister said government will convert Category B schools, will upgrade some of the Category B schools to Category A. And how does government intends to do that? Government intends to do that by improving infrastructure across some of the selected Category B schools to elevate them into Category A schools. At the same time, there are still some Category C schools that also need infrastructure improvement. Government is also proposing to also elevate some of the Category C schools to Category B. But it cannot be the reverse. The reverse cannot fix the problem.
Stay with me, Hashmin. Let me bring back Dr. Peter is still with us, just to get his thoughts on this. We're just hearing from the Education Ministry on how they plan to implement this. Your thoughts?
Well, as I said, it wouldn't have made sense for the minister to say that he is going to downgrade Category A to B. I think maybe they have to look at the script again, because I think he was trying to say improve from C to B, and then 10 from C to B, and then 10 from B to A. I think that is what he wanted to communicate. But I'm right?
You're on air.
Is it a right?
Can you hear me?
Okay, right. So I heard somebody saying you are right. So that is what I think they have to do, and I think it's the best thing that we need to do now. We need to gradually improve on the infrastructure, teaching quality, and other variables in our secondary schools, so that we'll be able to absorb the demand that is coming. I think if they are able to do this within the next 1 year, we will see a considerable improvement in terms of number of people that goes to these resolution centers and want their issues to be fixed. My focus is that we should make sure that this problem that we are experiencing this year, we don't come back to have a discussion around it with the same issues coming up. And I think that is the good step that the minister wants to take, and we should support him in that direction. Any attempt to to downgrade as initially seems to have come out is not going to help us. We need to upgrade some category C schools to category B. We need to upgrade some category B schools to category A. And then gradually, if we have a plan within the next 5 to 6 years, we will be able to deal with this issue of pressure on the few schools, and that brings a lot of headache and everything on our educational system during the period of school selection. So this is a positive note. We will need to support the minister, but we have to do other reforms too. And I hope that we add this to other reforms that we need to do with the school placement itself, so that we are able to deal with the issue as and when it is time to deal with these placement challenges.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doc, for your time. We appreciate your time. Let me wrap up with Hashmin Mohammed. Your final words on what other things that this administration may be doing to look at reforms in the education sector moving forward.
Well, I think I've just provided the clarity that the minister said he intends to move government intends to move some of the category C schools to category B, and then some of the category B schools to category A. In doing that, it is going to fix the infrastructure deficit in some of the schools. That makes a lot of qualified students unable to be assigned to the category A school or the best schools in the country. At the same time, the government is also considering improving infrastructure in some of the schools in OT, Savannah region, Northeast and Northeast region, because in these regions we do not have any category A school in those regions.
Thank you so much, Doc, for your time here. Dr. Peter Anti, as well as Hashmin Mohammed, just joining us here on The Pulse. Well, let's shift our attention away from the education sector now. Democracy Hub has filed a writ at the Supreme Court of Ghana, challenging what it describes as unconstitutional and secret memorandum of understanding between the government of Ghana and the United States for the reception, detention, and onwards transfer involuntarily repatriated West African nationals into Ghana. The civil society group argues that the agreement announced by the Foreign Affairs Minister in September 2025 as part of efforts to ease U.S. visa sanctions violates both Ghana's 1992 Constitution and binding international laws, including conventions against torture and unlawful detention. According to Democracy Hub, at least 42 deportees have already been brought into Ghana under armed military custody and held at the Bundasi military training camp under inhumane conditions without due process. The group insists that the deal entered into without parliamentary approval breaches Article 14, 15, 19 and 75 of the Constitution, and it undermines Ghana's sovereignty and makes the country complicit in, quote, chain refoulement. Well, that is that petition they have put out, and according to them, the unlawful transfer of refugees into the country should not be accepted. Well, that petition is on your screen as we speak, just detailing some of the key things that they have done. And just like I told you, they have filed a writ at the Supreme Court. And one of the key things they are doing is challenging that memorandum of understanding that Ghana has between us and the United States. Now, they state the grounds on which they feel this is unconstitutional, especially that concern that it did not go through parliamentary approval. We already heard from the Foreign Affairs Minister try to just detail what exactly that deal is all about. And he tells us the reason why it didn't go through Parliament was because it wasn't an agreement, it was an MOU, and that conversation is what we're about to have here on The Pulse. Well, joining me now is Timothy Selikem. He's spokesperson for Democracy Hub. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. Are you not satisfied really with government's explanation for the signing of this MOU?
I'm a lawyer for Democracy Hub, and thanks for having me. In terms of the explanation given by the Foreign Affairs Minister, I think there is some lacking legal appreciation of the vehemence and the petition by Democracy Hub regarding the issue that's gone on for about a month and more. Under Article 75 of the 1992 Constitution, it is clearly stated that any agreement, convention, or treaty entered into by government, either directly by the President or under the authority of the President, should undergo a process of ratification. The process of domestication is two steps: either ratification by a resolution by more than half of members of all members of Parliament, or through an act of Parliament. Now, the argument that this is just an MOU is neither here nor there. If you refer back sometime in 2015, there was an MOU between government and the USA concerning the transmission of some detainees from Guantanamo Bay to Ghana. That action went before the Supreme Court in the popular case known as Margaret Banfo versus Attorney General. The court clearly indicated that the test for whether or not a thing is an agreement is an essential test. And this is a common position that the international community even held in numerous cases by the ICT. Whether or not a thing is a treaty is an issue of essence, not form. So if there's an agreement that creates a binding legal obligation on any government of any state, and it's a multilateral agreement between two or more, or a bilateral agreement between two nations, then it meets the standard of being treated as a treaty. There is what we know under international law known as the Vienna Convention on International Law of Treaties. And the Vienna Convention on Law of Treaties is very clear on what a treaty is. Any agreement of whatever description that purports to create obligation for any nation state counts as an agreement, unless it is stated in the agreement that it did not, it was not purported to have any legal obligation whatsoever.
And what reliefs are you seeking in court?
Okay, for the reliefs that we are seeking in court, there are about 27 reliefs endorsed expressly on the face of the writ. The reliefs, I can compartmentalize them into tripartite entities. One is a declaratory relief, that is to say that the MOU that is purportedly executed is in violation of Article 75. The second leg is a restraining order against government that the conduct is in violation of the Constitution, so should not continue. The third leg is a cease and desist order that if the government has taken any step whatsoever to continue to effectuate the said agreement, then that cannot continue.
And then really, we are looking at the other side of the coin. There are critics who say that Democracy Hub, you found your voice and your voice is in sync with the minority. Is this politically sponsored?
No, I think Democracy Hub has established sufficient integrity over the years in terms of its advocacy in support of human rights and civil liberties. And whatever may be the motive, is neither here nor there. We should be more focused on what the merits of the case are. We have indicated clearly that this is a violation of the 1992 Constitution, this is a violation of international law, and that should be the focus of the discussion.
Stay with me. Let me bring in international relations expert, Dr. Ishmael Hovo, just to get his thoughts on this. Doc, we appreciate your time here on The Pulse. Just immediately after government announced this MOU and we received some of these individuals into the country and onward to the countries of their abode. We also got some juicy news, which is that the US lifted some visa restrictions for this country. Isn't it beneficial for us as a country to be quiet on these issues?
Yeah, thank you, and good afternoon to your viewers. Yes, in as much as it is beneficial, and of course, no Ghanaian will say that the lifting of visa restrictions is not beneficial. But we must also be concerned with adhering to the basic tenets of the laws of this land. So I believe that it is in the interest of the government itself to present this agreement before Parliament so that everybody gets to know the details of the agreement, what they have agreed on and what they have not agreed to. Now, you remember that just recently there was an issue of a certain gentleman being from Venezuela who was purported to be on the way to Ghana, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs will have to step in and insist that the agreement they had with the US, they can only accept West African nationals based on some humanitarian principles. So all this is because you have not followed an open process in trying to reach this MOU. So nobody is saying that you cannot use these deals to get visa restrictions lifted. You can use them, but use them properly. Use them through the appropriate channel. Use them through the laid down procedures of this land. So I think that the argument of the Democratic Hub is justified. What we should be, what the minister and those running the Foreign Affairs Department should be thinking is how do they present this agreement before Parliament, get parliamentary approval, so that all the objections and all the criticisms about the deal will go away and we'll move on. So yes, in as much as in diplomatic practice, in foreign policy, you may want to use this as a way to get leverage. You should do it properly within the context of Ghanaian law.
But then we haven't seen this MOU really and the details of the MOU. But then aren't there international implications if, for example, we go to Parliament and they decide that this deal is not what we're in for, and Ghana would have to backtrack on this MOU, which we have signed, by the way? Wouldn't there be international implications for us as a country?
Now, so if you will send an MOU to Parliament and Parliament will decide that it's in the best, it is in the very bad taste, or it's not in the interest of Ghana, then it's actually a very bad one. So there's no big deal backtracking on it. If that should be what you should do to protect the interest of Ghana, that should be done. If you believe that MOU is in the interest of Ghana, then the foreign minister, the president, and those involved must be able to justify it before Parliament. And of course, we have a Parliament that is one-sided virtually. So if one-sided Parliament will reject an agreement of a sort, then there's a lot of questions that will be asked. So I think that we should not fear anything. We should go through Parliament. That will make all the criticisms to go away. That will make the agreement more open to the public, more open to our representatives, so that the fear of Ghanaians, some Ghanaians that maybe people of very questionable characters will be accepted, will go away, and then we can engage the US if we think that some aspects of the agreement have to be changed. We engage them and then rectify it, resolve those quickly, so that nobody will continue to ask questions pertaining to the legality and other ways of this agreement. But currently, the way we have done it, the way we are trying to go about it, although it gives us some relief, it still constitutes a very an issue of law, and I'm not surprised that this group has taken it to court. Because if you look at the Ghanaian law, you look at international law, and look at what we are doing, particularly the fact that they are not the deportees we are receiving are not coming to stay in Ghana, but we are facilitating their deportation to countries that they initially objected to going. So yes, Parliament have to look at it. Even if Parliament decide that it is not in the interest of Ghana, then it means that it is actually not in the interest of Ghana. But I'm sure that the minister and those who enter this agreement may have done a lot of due diligence to ensure that there is no agreement that will be contrary to the interest of Ghana. So they should be able to present it before the House, so that the House will take a good look at it and then give them a leeway to continue the deal if there need be. And if it is not, then they should have to stop and find another way to engage the U.S. for if we sign other reliefs that they are seeking from the U.S.
But then it's interesting you make mention of the House and the numbers. It's really a game of numbers. Do you think the majority, with the numbers they have, can even object to an MOU signed by one of their members?
That would be very, very, very strange. That would be something that I can't think will happen. So that is why it is strange that the government is not willing to present the agreement. And that adds up to the suspicion that there is something about the agreement that is not good for Ghana. So,
but even if the agreement isn't good for Ghana as a country, the voice of the minority is quite little. In the game of numbers, if it comes down to a vote, they would surely lose it.
That's why I'm saying that given the numbers they have in Parliament, this should not be a challenge for them to get it through Parliament. So the fact that they are hesitating to present it before Parliament add up to the suspicion that there may be something in there that will not be good if it come out in the public domain. So if they don't have anything to hide, if they don't have anything to cover up, they should just present it before Parliament. And then once it goes through Parliament, all these challenges will fade away. And then you can continue to engage the U.S. and see how you get other benefits from Ghana-U.S. relations instead of keeping it the way it is now.
Thank you so much. Dr. Ishmael Hovo is an international relations expert. Let me wrap up with the legal representative for Democracy Hub, Selikem. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. When next are you expected to appear in court as you start this legal battle between yourself and government? Selikem, you have some need for me to hear you clearly.
Yes, we are expected to appear before court next month, which is November. We are waiting to get a reply from the Attorney General's Department and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs regarding the suit. I would want to address a simple issue that my other colleague raised. The suit is so wide in scope that it is not enough that Parliament ratifies the said MOU. That the second leg of the argument is that even if the said MOU is ratified, it will be in violation of customary international law, and that Parliament could not have done it. Because there's a principle of international law known as the doctrine of non-refoulement. And the doctrine of non-refoulement is that if a person alleges that if he is transmitted or repatriated into another country, he will be able to face harms that are known under international law in violation of the Convention Against Torture or the ICTR, then that person cannot be so transmitted. Some of the people who were earlier transferred, the Gambian national and Nigerian nationals who were transferred to Gambia and Nigeria, are people who have alleged that they are facing persecution in their home country. So they couldn't have been transferred at all. Ghana has no duty under international law to receive these people from US and participate even as a middleman or as a stooge in transmitting them to their home country. Yes, that is the position of the law.
Thank you so much, Timothy Selikem, for your time here on The Pulse. While you're still watching The Pulse, please stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick turn.